Hello, this is R Rats with Team 4545 League, analyzing the game between GHB Chess and JWB. This was played in Team Event 53 in the 5th round, so let's have a look. Now, this is one of the most surprising gambits I have seen in my life. It's coming, not yet. Now, white to play and come up with an ingenious gambit. I didn't make you pause. I just don't understand that move. But whatever, you know. I mean, I'm just as shocked as you. I'm at a loss for words. I have to make an expression like that to make a point. What are you doing? All right. No disrespect meant, but seriously, I'd like White to explain what his intention was here. It certainly gets black out of book, but it also hands black a dead-winning game. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. Now, was white afraid of something? Is anything loose? I don't think so. But anyway, I'm not going to debate that. Okay, black, you have a one game. Now, what you got to do is win it. Okay, let's have a look here. All right. First step is to get this king safe. Now, I've given a lot of videos with the that have had the center fork trick where white makes a temporary sack on f7 and black just consolidates, and he's usually left with a superior game because he has the bishop pair. Well, not only does black have the bishop pair, he has an extra bishop. So generally the way to do that is to bring the pawn up and the king over and so forth, and the knight out, get the rook out. Well, the bishop will go to g7, the rook to f8, and the king to g8. You just castle by hand as fast as you can. That's the general rule on what to do here. So let's see how black handles it. I don't think he needs to take. Okay, the reason you don't want to take here is because what that does is it develops white's piece. Okay? Read My System by Aaron Nimzovich, a classic and a must-read. What he explains is don't make exchanges that develop your opponent's pieces, and consequently look for exchanges that develop your pieces. Now, from a logical point, this game is winning for black, but there's no, and anxiously you want to trade everything off because you know if the queens come off and the rooks come off and everything else comes off, that the game's over, right? Well, you're making it just a wee bit harder on yourself by taking this knight. Just develop a piece, okay? Just a simple little developing move. That takes away any tricks here you might run into, although I'm not sure there were any, but it takes them away. And if black wants to, or white wants to take the piece, let him. He's done what you want. Now you've got d5 taken away from him. He's not going to occupy that square. And if white now decides to play queen d4, it's now black's move in this position. Okay? Now look, let's notice this. This piece is out and it's black's move. Now let's go back and look at the continuation. You'll see why Nimzovich is right. Okay? Now, if black plays knight f6, we have the exact same position that we did before with two differences. Number one, this pawn is on this square in the other position, and it was black's move. Now, it's white's move. Do you see the difference? I don't know how to explain it any more carefully. Always make exchanges that develop your pieces and avoid them that develop your opponent's pieces. If you remember that rule, you're going to do fine. Now, there might be an exception, and there probably is, where you have to do something like that. But for the most part, stay away. Now let's see what black does. Knight f6. So now it's white's move, when it could have been black's move, and this pawn is on a better square on c6. I'm sorry, there it is. Okay, so it's white to play. He gets a free move. Now, black should continue with what I suggest, g6. White has nothing to attack this black king with, okay? This rook isn't doing anything. These guys aren't doing anything. This queen sure can't do it by itself, so one move, 2, 3, 4. Black's castled in 4 moves, and then he just has to develop his bishop and his rook, and he's set. But he may not even have to castle that quick. Okay, let's do what I call fantasy chess. Let's just play some moves, get the pieces developed. Okay, where's white going to put the bishop? Let's put it here. Okay, now we'll put the rook there. Now let's see. White gets a rook on this file, and let's put this here on e6. Looks like a good square. Let's put this rook here, and put this rook here. Actually, let's hold on the rook. I forgot to put the king back where I wanted him. Okay, put the king there, and it's white's move. What does he have? Well, I said a minute or two ago he didn't have any attack at all because all his pieces were at home. Well, now he's got the bishops over there, but what's it doing? Going to swing a rook up? Okay, it's white to play. Let's swing a rook up, okay? Now let's just, well, we don't want to develop that piece yet. It drops a pawn. Okay, fine. Now we'll put this over here, right? Oops, can't put it there. Here's a trick. Simple move. Okay, let's shove a pawn. What else? Now let's develop this. Now this is just a possible variation. What does white have? White has absolutely nothing, and all the black's pieces are developed. And white has no play. So if you develop your pieces, I always say it, you're going to do fine. So let's see what happens. Okay, there was no need to move the queen yet. Okay, it's not. We're going to develop it eventually, but there was no need to. We've got guys here, our main supporting cast for our king and queen, need to get out, okay? This one can't even move, period. Okay, so got to go by that little thing I just showed. Okay, now knight c3. Now look, maybe we got some tempo possibilities. Okay, now boom, another mistake. Why give a backward pawn on the open file? Why? I mean, you're piece up, but you don't have to keep giving white a little bone here. You know, it's like white didn't do anything except sack a piece. So e5, it just doesn't make sense. And yeah, the bishop can get to g7, but it doesn't have, or to e7, it doesn't have any scope. It had more scope on g7. Look, you know, here, and then boom, you got this nice long diagonal that could come into play sometime. On e7, it's just a tall pawn. Okay, common sense will answer most questions and solve the positions for you. Okay, so let's revert. Okay, so now we have yet another little small bone thrown to white here, and what can white do with it? Well, white's still losing, and it is one luxury that you can do these second and third best moves, but you can't keep doing them. And here's the culprit right up here. The clock, 44 minutes and 40 seconds. Yeah, you're a piece up. But white sacked it. He didn't just blunder it. He sacked it intentionally, okay? Unless this was one heck of a mouse slip, that maybe that's the story. But white is not, if white sacked the piece intentionally, he's not going to quit because he's a piece down, right? Generally speaking, people resign if they blunder a piece. Now, some play on, but white sacked this piece, so that means white's going to try. So what you need to do is put him out of his misery. And don't give up things. Don't give up this d5 square. That's 2 opportunities that black could have had a pawn cover it. This pawn could have taken on c6, and this pawn, if needed, could have gone to e6. Or even, as I said, the bishop goes to e6, and, hey, take off his knight, you know. Give up the bishop pair. You still have an extra knight. Okay, let's move on. Okay, so what? Why? Why play a6? I mean, look, see these guys? They're begging to get into the game. I talk so many times in my videos about how long do the queen rook and queen bishop stay at home. And here it's the case with both sides. Okay, look, here's white's. And what's white afraid of? Or black afraid of? Knight b5? Then attacking the queen? Then why'd you put the queen on c7? Okay, why? So yet another small mistake made by black. He's still winning, but like I say, you can't keep throwing these little bones to the dog. He's going to come and bite. Okay, now look, white's very close to getting all his development completed, and black still has 4 pieces sitting at home. Finally, one comes out. Now, okay, I already pointed out the bishop should have gone to g7. Well, it's too late now. It might as well just go to e7. It's the quickest way. All right, because It's no use on g7 because the long diagonal was closed voluntarily by black. White didn't make black push e5. White did it. Okay, so you might as well get it to e7. Got to get it out. Got to swing the rook out. Got to tuck the king to safety. Okay, f4. Now, look at what black's generosity has now given white. A glimmer of hope. We're going to open up a file, and it's a file directly at the king. That file never would have opened up. It wouldn't have opened up for a long time had black done what I had suggested. g6, because white still has to push it to f5 and then take on g6, just open up the f file. So it's one of the consequences, another consequence of pushing e5. Okay, so bishop e6. Now, at least we got the rooks connected. That bishop was screaming to get out. It's out. And I think this move was played because it has a one-move threat. Well, I hate to say it, guys. One-move threats are impulsive moves, and they're meant for blitz chess. You play a move that threatens something, and if your opponent doesn't see it, you win the material, and you probably outplay him the rest of the way, and his flag falls, or you get him down to an ending and beat him. Anyway, the king's safety is a must. It's got to be defended. Okay, let's get it. Let's see what happens. Okay, open up the file. Boom. And obviously, let's see. Was there any reason why white couldn't do that? Yeah, there's a reason why black can't do that. The queen just comes to f3, and then you have little zwischenzugs. I'll just show you to get this video running. And now white is on two pieces, and he's going to get his piece back and have be just down the exchange. So pick a piece to save. Let's try this one. Now I get this pawn on the 7th rank. That's no good. So maybe I've got to do this one, and then I take here, and didn't matter if you took with the pawn, but because the pawn would be pinned. Black's got trouble here. He's got to guard f6 now. So anyway, that's the result of an impulsive move. Now white has threats. Okay, now it's white's turn again, and the king still is not safe. Okay, knight d5. Okay, it's got it a threat. It's threatening to take the queen. Now this move is fine. Bishop takes, but look at what's happened as a result of black not playing this opening correctly after the piece sack. Now white has two things he didn't have before. He has a passed pawn and a 4-on-2 queenside pawn majority. Black's given up quite a bit. It's adding up. Yeah, there's checks. Black's still winning, no doubt about it, but he's letting white back in the game. Okay, so rook d8. Finally, that guy gets up. But when's this coming into play? That's what I want to know. I want to know when that king is a priority. You got to get him secure. Okay, white wasn't threatening d6 yet. So anyway, let's go on. Okay, so white just plays a preventive move, avoids some potential checks that might be a nuisance. And another mistake, okay? How many times have I shown in my videos, don't weaken your position. There's no need to kick that bishop. Now look at the white squares. Swiss cheese. Look at these. I'll point them out. White can go occupy any of those now easily. Soon enough, okay? Yeah, I understand the point. If he takes your knight, you've traded another piece, but you haven't traded what you need to trade, the queens, okay? The queens are still on the board, so are the rooks. So white just saves time and takes. And yes, black is still winning, but he's given white another little chance. And once again, there's the culprit, the clock. 39 minutes on the clock. Why? I know it's a piece up, but you got to find the best moves to finish this game, these games off. Okay? All right. Now white gets another piece developed. And still, this rook is not developed. Still, this king is sitting in danger. Okay? White can't get at it, but... And rooks, by the way, make poor blockaders of passed pawns. Okay? Knight's the best one, but we don't have one of those. Well, we did, but we got rid of it. Okay? So, I guess maybe white's afraid, or black's afraid white's going to push that pawn. Well, who allowed him to have the pass pawn? Now white's gonna set up a pawn chain. Now it's time to maybe take a move and consider b5, but I guess white can play c4 anyway. And hooray! Finally, the rook gets out, but the king's still on f7. And maybe if it goes to g8, white, if it goes to g8, white might be able to generate some threats at some point with queen g6. I'm not saying now, but he can certainly set him up. And queen g6 would never have been possible if I'm sorry. If black had not played h6. Now I can see some reasons for playing it now that maybe I missed. The queen was on it, but you know, hey, why weaken yourself? It could have been prevented earlier by g6 as I suggested. So anyway, it didn't happen. Okay, c4. Now white's got his pawn chain. Now finally the king gets back. Finally, okay. And black occupies some nice squares. You know, black's winning. There's no doubt about it, but he's made it tougher on himself. And now the 4-on-2 pawn majority is about to come a 2-on-none. And black is still winning, but he must exercise more care. And he's done nothing to try to trade rooks and queens and stuff. Nothing. Anyway, let's just see what happens. Okay, I think this is another impulsive move. Let's just go back a second. Okay, the reason I think he played queen d4 is, yeah, you're hoping white trades queens. Well, white's not going to trade queens because he loses, okay? So where you're just going to drive the queen to a better square, maybe g6, okay? For the moment, we've got this blockaded. We've got to consolidate. Black needs to find a winning plan. Okay, what's the winning plan? Ideally, we'd like to get this bishop on d4. It's a much better posted, okay? We don't need to double rooks on the d file because we've got the position blocked, okay? So black to play and do the best he can. What he's got to do is play rook e8, bishop g5, and bishop e3. Now, white has time to prepare for that, but that's black's plan. Get the bishop activated. It's just a tall pawn. Let's just get rid of the circles and arrows, okay? Consider this just a pawn. Can you do that in your mind? The game looks dead even, with white maybe having an advantage because his pawns are more advanced than the black corresponding 4-on-2 majority. That's if you just imagine a pawn on f6. So we've got to get that tall pawn activated. That should be black's priority. So this maybe does help it. Let's see if it comes out. Now, perfect time. Bishop, well, maybe not. C5, let him. You just take the pawn. And you're on the, okay. This is the time for this move, bishop g8. Now, white's got to react, right? Let's try and prevent bishop e3 and bishop d4. We got to get the rook off the file, so let's go there, okay? Now I'm going to put the queen on c5 so that I can put the bishop on e3. That's my plan, right? If you don't do anything, I'm going to put this bishop on e3 and park it on d4. All right, that's my first step. So what are you going to do? Stop it? Go ahead. Now I'm going to go threaten your pawn. Whoops, we got a pawn hanging here. Sorry. Okay. Yeah, I can't see one movers. Let's just go back a second. Okay. I was saying rook e1. Okay, now we have to stop and play rook e8 before we play queen c5. But our threat still is to play bishop d4. Okay? So what's white going to do to stop bishop e3? Play queen e2? Well, maybe we'll just do a little differently. Maybe we will, since these pawns aren't threatening to advance now, maybe we'll just reactivate this rook, okay? Make some threats with it. Now the threat is, white can't push either pawn. Now the threat is to play rook c7. Any way you look at it, black can get that bishop activated. He's an extra piece up, and he needs to get it activated. Okay, let's back up. See what happened. Queen c5. Now the pieces have just gone back. White hasn't gained, or black hasn't gained much ground, and still we got to get this guy activated. Okay, Now, what's white doing? He's defending. He's defending his position. Now, this would be a perfect time to play bishop g5, wouldn't it? Well, we got to deal with this at some point. I don't know. Now, white's made some weaknesses, and now it looks like black's doing okay with what he had, but I'd sure like to have that bishop on d4. Man, that would be so sweet. Okay. You can just find so many things to do. And you know, this looks great. You know, the rook's active now and it's attacking the queen, but now the queen goes to a good square. And about this point, black starts letting white advance the pawns. Now, that wouldn't have been possible if he had tried to coordinate a strategy to get that bishop activated. But he's having to come to the back rank because he sees the possibility of this check, okay, and a repetition. Well, why is that there? Well, one reason is black went and activated his rook, but I guess he activated the wrong piece. The bishop was what needed to be activated. So what black needs to do maybe is play this, and this just starts letting the pawns roll. There they go, and black can't take it, or I guess he gives up a draw, right? Anyway, and you know, the rook is nice on e2. It certainly looks good, but these pawns are getting dangerous, and that's really all white had. He has to try something, otherwise give up. And now the queen retreats. Now, why retreat? Okay, black's had to go into this. The price for black going into this mode was the activation of this rook. He activated the wrong piece, but now black's in a retreat mode. And here goes. Oops, not yet. The other pawn's about to run. Okay, yep, there it goes. Now, what's happening here? And here's this tall pawn. Just keep imagining that being a pawn. What's it doing? Nothing. And white's just getting stronger and stronger. White's close to getting a winning game now out of this. But black has a pass pawn, and he decides, well, I'm going to use it. And now it does activate the bishop finally. But I sure would have loved that bishop on d4. Such a nice square. It's just going to cause all kinds of problems in the white camp. Okay, check. Now we got to get a check, right? And I guess now white's happy to trade queens because he sees if this happens, he's got some wonderful threats. Okay, let's see. Let's take a look. Okay, there's two ways to retake, and they're both interesting. This one is go here, right? Okay, now if you don't take the pawn, this is coming. Okay, so let's look at the I'm not saying this is the best move. I just want to show you. This would probably be okay, but white's got a lot of nuisance value. You have to be careful with what's going on back here. But anyway, let's see. Like I say, there's nuisance value, but I think the key is just take with the rook, and the idea is to play c7. So now on bishop here, we just go here, right? Now the bishop's under attack, and this is the threat. So all of a sudden, black wanted to trade queens, and now he can't. Okay, so he's got to decline the queen trade, and those pawns are getting more dangerous. And I guess the same thing goes here. Now maybe white just decides, well, hey, why take a draw? I might win this. And I do notice that this clock all of a sudden went way down. Let's just back up and see where black got into. Okay, here's when he played. Yeah, when he played rook d8. See, his plan before that was a little faulty, a little quick, activating the rook, and only after he activated the rook, which looked okay but turned out not to be okay, did black start taking time, and then those pawns are getting more dangerous, and now the clock is ticking, and black's running out of time. Now, if he had taken his time right out of the opening, this game would be over. Black would have won. Okay, so he's stuck now. He's got a bad game, and he's stuck. So look at those pawns. I mean, White's almost winning this now. And finally the bishop gets a little better placed. Had been that tall pawn on f6 for a long time, but oops, came at a price. We lost our passed pawn. And now we're trying to generate some threats, anything. But White stops that cold. And they're the passed pawns. We still haven't coordinated on how we're going to win them. But if the bishop had been on d4, we would have started winning them, and the game would have been over. And Black's blockading again. Now White's threatening to win the game, I think, close to it with this check. And he doesn't want any part of the check, but oops, runs into that check. And this is the key point where Black tossed the game away. Okay. This just walks into checkmate, because doesn't matter what he does. There's only one legal move here, and then this check. I think there's only two legal moves. One is to give up the queen, which doesn't seem too appetizing, and now here we can give up the queen again. But I guess White couldn't White have just mated with this move? Yeah. Anyway. He could have, but it doesn't matter. He did a mate and 2 instead of a mate and 1. We've seen that happen in league play. But what else does Black have here? I guess this is the only other move, and it's going to be dangerous here. If you take the pawn, that allows a rook check, and the king just has to come over here. And this looks awful scary for White. I mean for Black. Because now there's a third pass pawn to deal with. There's all kinds of potential queen checks that we have to be on the lookout for, and maybe a penetration down to a7. I don't know, players can evaluate this and see what's going on. But I think king take or queen takes is just fatal. You're going to lose your queen. Oops, how do you get out of check? You can't use the queen to interpose as much as you like. You're giving your queen for nothing here. So it's a shame. You got to give credit to White for hanging in there, but he had to get about 10 gifts from Black to win, and that's the price of a sacrifice piece. So it's a shame, that White should win this from that opening. I mean, I'm going to let this guy have it, and JWB played a reasonable game, but remember, your candidate moves was the thing I teach. Consider your candidate moves and evaluate them. And even just a simple one move thing, like when you play, let me just look at the score sheet. When you play e5, what were the other candidate moves? Let's just go back here. Let's make it simple. We're on move 43, so back 68. Back 68. That should do it. Okay, back 68. Okay, there's e5. Hey, see how nifty that is? Okay. When you play e5, you ask yourself, what are my candidate moves? Well, obviously e5 was one of your candidate moves. What are your other developing moves? Well, the other way to put e6, I suppose, if you want the bishop on e7, that's a candidate move. And you can say, well, that keeps him out of d5, okay? That's how you do your evaluation. e5 attacks the queen. e6 keeps him out of d5 and prepares to develop my bishop. g6 is another candidate move, prepares to develop my bishop, and ooh, that's a better diagonal. I like that. Okay, I misdrew the arrow. Don't laugh. I'm not drunk. Okay. All right, so bishop, oops. Okay, so there's your candidate moves. What were the other candidate moves? Bishop e6, it keeps him out of d5, because you'll just take it. You're playing trade-off pieces, right? So, anyway, think of your candidate moves, then you weigh everything together. Look at my promotion video on my website, okay? I discussed candidate moves. There were 3 continuations, and I evaluated each one. I had to look several moves deep and make an assessment, take a photograph in my head of what's happening in that position, then move on to the next one, take another photograph of that, and then move on to the next one and take a photograph of that. Then I compare the 3 photographs, or in this case, not photographs, chess positions. I say, which one do I like best? Well, gee, I like the one that gets my king to safety and puts my bishop on a long diagonal. And then you avoid making impulsive moves. Yeah, you're dead winning, but that's when you hunker down to make sure you do win, because unfortunately you didn't win. But you know, it's all right. It's not a shame to lose a game like this. We're all in need of help. Okay, we all are. I'm in need of help. I wish I could play better. I can't. I'm trying, just like all of you. But we can make things easier for us if we just follow the candidate move approach. Okay, candidate moves. What are they? Make an evaluation. And I've said before, the Silicon Beasts, they go through millions of positions in split seconds, and they make their evaluation. But you know, they have to look at they look at stuff like brute force. You know, they look at continuations like, well, it's black's move. Okay, A5, bishop D2, rook A7, which loses a rook, but they look at it, right? They look at everything. We don't look at everything. We're human, but we can focus on what we have to look at just by simple process. And here, out of the opening, the key is what? Develop. Get my pieces out. Okay, I'm whispering. I'm doing that on purpose because maybe it's a big secret. All right, all right. Entertaining game, and there's always something to be looked at. No shame. JHB Chess, good job hanging in there. JWB, better luck next time, and I want to thank everyone for their time. And we'll talk to you all real soon. Take care.